The moment a society destroys its money, it destroys itself. History shows us that every great empire rests on the quality of its currency, and when that quality rots, the empire falls right behind it. We are watching the rot happen again right now. I am Jeff. You're watching Orange Dots. Subscribe to stay ahead of the curve. Because when this cycle is over, only a few will be able to say they understood it while it was happening. To understand where we are going, we have to go back 2,000 years to the greatest superpower the world had ever seen. The Roman Empire was not just built on legions and swords, it was built on the silver denarius. For centuries, this small silver coin was the standard of value across the known world. If you were a merchant in Syria, or a soldier in Gaul, or a politician in Rome, you knew exactly what a denarius was. It was nearly pure silver. It was sound money. It was trust encoded in metal. This trust allowed Rome to build roads that spanned continents and aqueducts that defied gravity. It allowed trade to flow freely from the sands of Africa to the forests of Britain, because everyone agreed on the value of the coin in their pocket. But empires are expensive. It costs a fortune to maintain standing armies and build monuments and bribe politicians and pacify the mob with bread and circuses. The temptation for every emperor is always the same. How do we pay for things when we run out of taxes? The honest answer is to spend less or tax more. But taxing people makes them angry, and spending less makes the army angry. So the emperors found a third way, a sneaky way, a way that felt like magic. At first, they decided to cheat the money itself. It started slowly, almost imperceptibly with Emperor Nero. Around the year 64, AD Nero faced a budget crisis after the Great Fire of Rome. He needed to rebuild the city, and he wanted to build his massive golden house, but the treasury was running low, so he had a bright idea. He ordered the mint to collect the silver denarius coins and melt them down. But when they recast the new coins, they did not put all the silver back. They mixed in a little bit of copper, about 10%. The new coins looked the same. They weighed the same. They had the face of the emperor on them, but they were worth 10% less in reality. Nero kept the leftover silver and used it to mint more coins to pay his bills. It was free money, or so he thought. This was the first crack in the dam. For a while, nobody noticed. The average baker or blacksmith just accepted the coin at face value. But once the government realized they could print money out of thin air by degrading the metal, they could not stop. It is an addiction. It is the most dangerous drug a government can take. Over the next 2 centuries, emperor after emperor repeated the trick. They needed to fund wars. They needed to pay the Praetorian Guard so they would not be assassinated. They needed to hold on to power. So they added more copper and less silver. By the time of Marcus Aurelius, the silver content had dropped to 75%. By the time of Septimius Severus, it was down to 50%. The coins were starting to look different. They were not shiny anymore, they were dull and they tarnished easily. But the real crash came in the 3rd century. The crisis was here. The empire was being attacked on all sides, and the emperors were desperate. By the reign of Claudius II, the silver content was down to 0.02%. The denarius was dead. In its place, they issued a coin called the Antoninianus, which was basically a piece of bronze washed in a thin layer of silver that rubbed off. After a few weeks, the consequences were catastrophic. This is the part of history books that usually gets skipped, but it is the most important part for us today. When the money broke, the society broke. Merchants realized that the coins were worthless junk. They started demanding more coins for the same goods. This is what we call inflation. It is not that the bread was becoming more valuable. It was that the money was becoming worthless. Prices skyrocketed. People started hoarding the old good coins and spending the new bad coins, which is a phenomenon known as Gresham's Law. The economy collapsed. Trade routes shut down because nobody trusted the currency. Soldiers demanded to be paid in actual goods like salt or leather or gold because they refused to accept the emperor's fake coins. Rome devolved from a free trade empire into a primitive barter economy. The middle class was wiped out. The government became more authoritarian, trying to force people to use the coins and setting price controls that led to shortages and starvation. The collapse of the money was the true beginning of the fall of Rome. Now, fast forward 2,000 years to the United States of America. We think we are different. We have technology and central banks and economists in suits. But the pattern is exactly the same. For a long time, the US dollar was as good as gold. Literally, it was backed by gold stored in vaults. Under the Bretton Woods system, the entire world trusted the dollar because they could exchange it for physical gold at a fixed rate. It was sound money. It was the modern denarius. But just like Rome America had bills to pay, we had the Vietnam War. We had massive new social programs called the Great Society. We were spending far more than we had in gold. The rest of the world started to get suspicious. Countries like France began asking for their gold back instead of holding dollars. The U.S. Treasury was bleeding gold. The government faced a choice: tighten the belt and stop spending or change the rules. On August 15th, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on television and did exactly what Nero did. He temporarily suspended the convertibility of the dollar into gold. That temporary measure is now over 50 years old. In that moment, the dollar was severed from reality. It became a fiat currency, backed by nothing but faith and government decree. Just like the copper coins of the late Roman Empire, the dollar could now be printed without limit. Since 1971, the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar has collapsed. It has lost over 98% of its value against gold. You feel this every day. You feel it at the grocery store. You feel it when you look at house prices. You feel it when you look at the cost of healthcare. Economists try to tell you this is complex. They use words like quantitative easing and yield curve control and supply chain disruption. But it is not complex. It is simple. It is debasement. They are clipping the coin. They are printing trillions of new dollars to pay for wars and debts and bailouts, diluting the value of the dollars you worked hard to save. The chart of the U.S. dollar purchasing power looks almost identical to the chart of the Roman Denarius silver content. It is a slow slide, at first followed by a steep cliff. We are standing at the edge of that cliff right now. The debt is spiraling out of control. The interest payments on the U.S. debt are now higher than the entire defense budget. There is no mathematical way to pay it back in real terms. The only way out is to print more, to debase the currency further, to sacrifice the saver to save the system. This is where the story usually ends in tragedy. This is where the empire usually collapses and darkness falls. But this time is different. This time, we have an escape hatch. We have an orange dot on the timeline of history. In 2009, amidst the wreckage of the global financial crisis, a new form of money was born. Bitcoin was not created by an emperor. It was not created by a central bank. It was created by an anonymous coder who understood historical cycles. Satoshi Nakamoto looked at the history of Rome and the history of the dollar and realized the flaw was human nature. As long as a human king or chairman has the power to print money, they will always print money. They cannot help themselves. It is political suicide to stop. So Satoshi built a system without a king. Bitcoin is the first engineered monetary system in human history that is absolutely scarce. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. No emperor can print more. No central banker can debase it. It is governed by math, not by politics. Think about the Roman miner digging for silver. Even if he found a massive new vein of silver, the supply would increase and the value might drop a little. But with Bitcoin, even if more computers join the network to mine it, the supply does not increase. The difficulty adjustment is the immune system of Bitcoin. If more people try to mine it, it just gets harder to find. This ensures that the issuance rate stays perfect, stays predictable, and eventually goes to zero. This is the return to sound money. It is the digital denarius, but better because it cannot be clipped. It cannot be melted down and mixed with copper. It is pure signal in a world of noise. This is why you are seeing public companies starting to put Bitcoin on their balance sheets. They are waking up. They are realizing that holding cash is like holding those debased Roman coins while the empire burns. Their purchasing power is melting away every year. Corporate treasurers are realizing that if they want their company to survive the next 50 years, they cannot store their energy in a battery that leaks. They need a battery that holds the charge perfectly forever. This is what we track here at Orange Dots. We are tracking the migration of capital from the old dying system to the new immutable one. We are watching the smart money realize that the experiment of 1971 has failed and that the only safety lies in a mathematical truth that no government can alter. The skeptics will tell you that Bitcoin is volatile. They will show you the price crashes. They will tell you it is risky. But ask yourself, what is the risk of holding a currency that is guaranteed to lose value forever? The volatility of Bitcoin is just the market trying to find the price of a life raft while the ship is sinking. The ship is the fiat currency system. The life raft is the orange dot. History does not repeat itself, but it rhymes. We are living through a rhyme of the 3rd century Roman crisis. The debasement is accelerating. The trust is eroding. But unlike the Romans, who had nowhere to run, we have a choice. We can choose to exit the system. We can choose to opt out of the inflation. We can choose the money that no one controls. When you hold Bitcoin, you're not just holding a digital token. You're holding a piece of history. You're holding a vote for a new system. You are declaring that you understand the lesson of Rome and you refuse to let your labor be stolen by the printer. This channel is dedicated to documenting this transition. We are going to look at the data. We are going to look at the companies and the countries that are making the move. We are going to study the history of money so we do not get blindsided by the future. The Roman citizens who held onto their silver denarius survived the crash. The ones who traded their goods for the copper coins lost everything. Today, the silver denarius is Bitcoin. The copper coin is the dollar in your bank account. The choice is yours. The transition will not be smooth. It will be chaotic. It will be confusing. The mainstream media will tell you it is a bubble. They will tell you it is dangerous. They will tell you to stay in the safety of government bonds. But remember, the people who told the Romans that the new coins were just as good as the old ones were the same people who were stealing the silver. We are here to see through the lies. We are here to follow the truth. We are here to follow the orange dots. The cycle is turning. The age of fiat is ending. The age of sound, digital money, is beginning. Do not be the last one to understand what is happening. Do not be the citizen wondering why his bread costs a wheelbarrow of coins. Be the one who saw it coming. I want you to think about the money in your pocket right now. Think about the hours you worked to earn it. Think about the time away from your family. Think about the stress and the energy you traded for those pieces of paper. Now realize that there are people in a room right now deciding to print more of those papers to pay for their mistakes, devaluing your sacrifice without your permission. That is the theft. It is the invisible crime. And for 5,000 years, there was no way to stop it. Now there is. Thank you for watching Orange Dots. If you found value in this history lesson, share it with someone who needs to wake up. We are building a community of people who understand the past so we can own the future. I will see you in the next video.